Welcome back to Troll Time. I'm your host, Ivan D. Curtis, aka the Troll King, and this is the show where we talk sports, movies, or anything thought-provoking. Today we'll be talking sports, WNBA Draft Lottery. Bron gets his fourth straight triple-double. Cavs still undefeated. Ohio State, Colorado get wins over the weekend. Another classic matchup between Pittsburgh and the Baltimore Ravens. Kansas City gets his first loss against Buffalo. And we'll probably tackle anything else that arrives during the recording of this episode. Of course, you know I don't do the show by myself. Let me bring in my brother, A. Willie. Hey, Willie, what's going on with you?
It's been a rough weekend, man. My Trojans won. Hashtag fight on. Missouri Tigers lost a heartbreaker to South Carolina. All this while I was in Baltimore, man, talking about I'm seeing my new woman in Baltimore, and it didn't go as well. We had our first argument this weekend where we were talking about somebody in Pittsburgh. So, man, it was a rough weekend as it relates to that. But, man, I'm happy to do the show, man. Let's get it.
Got you. Jumping right into it, man. WNBA Draft Lottery happened on Sunday, November 17th. And I expressed my opinions about what took place. Of course, the Dallas Wings, they take home the number one pick in the 2025 WNBA Draft. To follow that is the Los Angeles Sparks at 2, Chicago Sky at 3, and Washington Mystics at 4. And just to round out the first round, up until the 12th pick, you'll have by record, the 2024 record, you have, of course, the Golden State Valkyrie, a new team coming into the league. They'll have the 5th pick. The Washington Mystics, they get the 6th pick from Atlanta. In 7th pick, New York Liberty from Phoenix. Which is crazy to think about. Indiana, right. That's what I call great GMing right there. But
right.
Indiana Fever at number 8, Seattle Storm at number 9, Chicago Sky number 10. That's from the Connecticut trade, which doesn't look too bad now. You get the 3 and the 10 pick, and then you got Minnesota at 11, and of course Phoenix at 12, and that's from the New York Liberty trade as well. I'm disgusted, brother. I mean, I don't want to see Paige in Dallas, man. And
I live here.
Hey, that's fine, but and who knows? I'm taking on a lot of feedback on the post that I made yesterday, and some people think they could draft her, and it could be a trade. I mean, because you definitely could. Get a lot of value out of that. But before I go on my brand page about it, hey, Willie, I just want you to chime in, give your thoughts overall about the WNBA Draft Lottery.
So crazy about it, if you're Dallas, if you look at their draft history over the last few years, they've had drafts where they've gone 1 and 2 in the draft. They had another top 5 pick in the draft when they took J.C. Sheldon. And it looks like there was been some other players that were drafted below her that are outperform her, at least during her rookie season. So that's something to think about if you are Dallas. And the other thing is when the number one prospect in the draft represents a need pick for you, it says a lot. It's really hard to move off of that pick. When that number one pick in the draft is a great prospect, and that's a need area for you, it's really, really hard to move off of that. So I think if you're Dallas, I think you are going to take Paige. A report just surfaced that Paige wanted to go to LA. Of course she wanted to go to LA. Here's the other thing it says to me as well, man. Hashtag fight on. Y'all got a year. Figure it out. I don't know if you'll be bad enough if you add Kiki to the equation. Y'all better figure it out and try to find a way to keep Juju at the crib.
Yeah, that is going to be the thing. I know a lot of people was confused a little bit because, not really knowing or understanding the whole draft eligibility. A lot of people, some people were confused thinking Juju going number one, and that was at least on my page. But those who know. But yeah, they definitely. I don't expect. Well, me and you talked about the Spark situation. Now, the reason why I wanted Paige to go to LA for multitudes of reasons. I feel like she's a star. Need to be in a market that's going to promote, as much as possible. I don't even know if that's the Sparks, but I know they do have the potential with some star power. And then you got Miss Jackson and then Cameron Brink. That's that's what I wanted to see. Three young guns. I think they got some real potential. I mean, and we talked about the guard situation in Los Angeles. Of course, Lexi Brown, had some health issues that she was battling with. But outside of that, they had to try to get things done by committee. Ari McDonald, and then you had Odyssey
Zaya
Sims.
could. And
Odyssey
Zaya could.
Sims came in, and Zaka. They just was trying to get it done by committee, but no real solid guard in their backcourt. So that's the main reason why I wanted to see Paige, other than the star power factor. But who knows? I just don't. Enrique, she expressed her her excitement on social media. Pretty much saying she just fell to her knees. But I don't is Paige capable of being a facilitator? Yes. But to me, when you start asking players to do too much outside of the framework of how they naturally play, that's where a lot of problems can arrive. And I think somebody said it best on my post yesterday is that hopefully, if this is the backcourt, hopefully that Enrique's shot selection kind of goes down, but her percentage goes up. And that's another key way to look at it. Now, I'm not
her shot. You mean her shot attempts?
Yeah, shot attempts. Yeah.
Yep,
So the thing about it is that I'm not saying it could be all bad because it definitely could work. Now, this is the other part. And Satu been flirting with them, man, with the fact of wanting to play with Caitlin, man. And she
better stop flirting.
her and Natasha Howard, I mean, are both free agents. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. Now, I've said it before and I said it again. Howard has to be looking for a team that can contend.
Right.
In my eyes, I could see it being somebody like the Aces, or somewhere like that where she can play the 4, or 5, and let Asia do what she does because Asia floats everywhere, and Howard could do the same. I think that would be a good veteran front court, and that would be they would be getting somebody with way more production than they've been getting at that spot. But I know she has to be looking for a contender. Now, Satu, on the other hand, health has been the only thing that's stopping her because when she's on the floor,
Right.
she's outstanding. But if they can manage to keep everybody and then get Paige, who knows? I would be one of those willing to work it out. Now, this is the thing, Willie. Who gonna coach, man? Like who was gonna coach the team? Like that's the thing. I mean, they have other issues. They have other concerns than just worrying about the number 1 pick. I mean, because I manage that could play a big part too, in whether Paige wants to be there or not, or Satu or Howard. I mean, for that matter. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I poke fun about it and made jokes and everything like that. But I definitely like I said, I wanted different for Paige Beckers, man. Moving on, we got NBA. The Cavs, man, are they handling business right now. A bunch of young guns, still undefeated in the NBA. I believe it's they improved to 15-0, if I'm not mistaken, with a win over the Hornets yesterday. Trying to pull it up, man. I'll tell you right now, ESPN has been acting up, man. Something terrible, and
Yeah.
it's really been getting on my nerves. But yeah, they've been looking pretty good. Have you happened to catch any of the Cleveland Cavaliers games?
I have. Yeah, I definitely caught some of them for sure.
No,
Yep.
they won yesterday, 128-114. Donovan Mitchell didn't play, but they are now 15-0, 8-0 at home. Just wanted to give a shout out to the hometown, the
Right.
hometown team. Not necessarily my team, but definitely doing their thing. Now LeBron got his fourth straight triple double. Um, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, not to mention that they are winning, man. Like it's not like the Lakers are going out losing out. This is on your coast, hey Willie. Have you happened to you caught any LeBron in action this year?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. Come on now. Yeah. I definitely watched the Lakers play
Give your
for
thoughts
sure.
on what he's doing, collecting his fourth straight triple double. At 40 years of age.
I mean, it's crazy that he's able to do that. I think the big thing too, like when we were talking about him, is what's helping to elongate this type of run. Now, of course, there are concerns. One of the things that I started thinking about is we essentially saw when we watched Kobe, and they had a team that had championship aspirations before. He was never quite the same after being injured. We saw this remarkable run, and the team really, really leaning on him. So I don't want the Lakers to lean on LeBron so much that one of Michael Jordan's quotes is, "What good is running the race as hard as you can if you don't have enough energy to finish it?" So obviously, we know LeBron takes a lot. It takes pride in making sure he's prepared. He does all that, but we want to make sure that you're not overexerting yourself in the first month of the season, and we don't have enough to take you through. Because I don't think that the Lakers can continue to keep. And last year proved it. And I said this last year. You can't go into the play-in and then think you're going to go to the Western Conference Finals every year like they did 2 years ago. You can't keep having that level of difficulty. Also, you can't burn up LeBron, so now he doesn't have any energy left once you get to the finish line. But again, testament to him, because what he's willing to do is allow others to get off where he's getting his triple doubles. Because I think throughout this stretch, he's had maybe one of those triple doubles being like a 30-point triple double. Even in the game last night, or when he got his last triple double, up until until the second half, fourth quarter, late in the game, he had like 11, 12 points. And then he went on a run and he got himself in the 20s. So doing that, featuring Anthony Davis, man, and it's so interesting how look at it. People need to understand this as they walk with us. You and I both have experience building rosters, and people will look at things and they'll say, well, why couldn't they do this under this coach? Why couldn't X player X do this with this team? It's crazy how sometimes players can do things for different coaches in different organizations that they somehow couldn't do under another coach and another organization when that coach and that organization may have been asking them to do the very same things that they're doing now. That those things are at play as well sometimes when we look at these players making these changes. But again, shout out to LeBron going to from being a major, major cog, the number one option, all of those things, ceding that number one option sort of moniker and label to AD, and that's translated to success for the Lakers.
No, no doubt. Now, with that being said, LeBron is averaging 23.3 points, 8.6 rebounds, 9.2 assists, and shooting 50%. The Lakers are 9-4, which is one of the best starts they've had over the last few years. I mean, and when they're playing well and getting, they're sitting fourth in the West right now. But when they're playing well, especially when they're getting players from the good play from the role players, they're looking like contenders. Now, ironically, if you would have asked anybody at the beginning of the year after the first 12 or so games, would the Warriors be 10-2 and the number one team in the West, most people probably would have said no. And I don't even think that's attributing whether if Clay would have stayed or not. But They playing good ball as well. I mean, it's still a cycle of injuries throughout the NBA that makes it kind of hit or miss on who's playing what night and the magnitude of the game, so to speak. But
Right.
hats off to LeBron, and we'll keep an eye out on what LeBron and the Lakers are doing throughout the season. Moving on to college football. Starting out with my Buckeyes, man.
Yes.
Took care of business against Northwestern, 31-7. Will Howard threw for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns. Quinshon Judkins, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, 4 catches, 4 catches, 100 yards. Cornell Tate, more like a homecoming for him. He had 4 catches, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But as expected, a win over Northwestern. And now we had it set up for the big matchup for next week against the Indiana Hoosiers. They're ranked number 5. Ohio State's ranked number 2. Hey, man, it's two potential. At this point, if the playoffs started today, they would be 2 playoff teams. So that's what type of matchup they're looking for. Now, like I said this before, I'm glad it's in Ohio State. The last thing that you want to do, in my eyes, is catch an underdog team with an underdog story looking for an upset win and over a top team, and you got to play them at home.
Right.
Now, I'm not discrediting Indiana by saying underdog or anything like that. They definitely doing their thing, but Ohio State is expected to win this game. This is kind of like I don't even want to say a pleasant surprise for Hoosier fans or Big Ten fans, because I didn't see this coming from Indiana, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't either. Hey, Willie, you got some quick thoughts about this matchup coming up?
I can't wait for it. And, it's so crazy because Indiana has people are mad that they're ranked as high as they ranked, and people are saying, well, you didn't play this team, you didn't play that team, all of these different things. I'm really excited to see it because I feel like if you are Ohio State, if you are Indiana, if you are going to really make that run and play in that college football playoff and make the run, you got to have some of these regular season games where they're high stakes to prepare you for that. And sometimes those are few and far between if you're making it relative to, say, the SEC, where it seems like every week, essentially what these games are playoff eliminators, right? You lose this game, you may be out of the playoffs. So every week, these teams in the SEC are playing with some pressure. And so when you get used to playing with some of that pressure, I think that's a good thing. So seeing Ohio State and Indiana, not saying that this is an eliminator, but at least them playing, and it's a top 5 matchup, and it has playoff implications. It seems like they're playing those games every week in the SEC. You got to have some of these games, and you got to have sometimes some adversity. You hit a team back, they hit you in the mouth back. And you have to have some of that to prepare you for what's going to happen in late December and January. And so for me, I can't wait to see it. We're going to see what Curtis Rourke is all about, because I'm sure Indiana's going to, I'm sure the Ohio State defense is going to get after Curtis Rourke, who's having a great year. But, man, again, I say this about your Buckeyes all the time. If you're going to beat them, you got to make Will Howard be a participant and play some quarterback. So it's going to be interesting, man. I cannot wait to see this game. I think your Bucks win, but I can't wait to see it, man.
No doubt. And Indiana's previous game, they beat Michigan, Michigan is 500 on the year right now. But I mean, it's still a great win, and Michigan will probably still make a bowl game,
Of
more
course.
than likely. So I mean, it's a good win for the Indiana program. Definitely, I'm gonna be locked in for this game. It's 12 o'clock on Saturday. Hey man, go Bucks. Now moving on to our Colorado Buffaloes. 8-2 now, man. Prime definitely has to be in the running for Coach of the Year. I'm always nervous at the beginning of Buffalo games, man, because
They keep doing it to us.
they start out slow. It was crazy because the first play of the game, Shador threw a pick, and I said, I know this is not how the day is going to go. Eventually, they picked it up. They went on to defeat Utah 49-24. Shador 30 for 41, 340 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Got it done again by committee on the ground. Augusta, he led with 7 carries, 59 yards, 1 touchdown. I definitely feel like he needs to touch the ball at least 10 to 12 times
I agree.
at minimum. And a lot of that is just clock and game management. Not expecting them to have big games, but who knows? You keep feeding them here and there. Who knows what may happen? Because he did show the ability to be able to run. He shows the ability to be able to run in between the tackles and get 3 to 4 yards here and there. But the receiving core never disappoint. Horn was out. Draylon Miller stepped up. 6 catches, 108 yards. 1 touchdown. LaJohntay Wester, 10 catches, 77 yards. Also had a dynamic 76-yard punt return in that game. Will Shepherd, man.
Beast.
5 catches, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 6'3". I was going to say 6'3", 205. People don't like. Of course, you always talk about the primetime athletes and stars or whatever, but these guys are going to get some. These guys are going to get looks in the NFL. I mean, especially that's the benefit of playing with a talent like Shador that has the ability to get anybody the ball. I mean, but these guys are going to be in the hunt and make a roster. I can't remember his name, though, the receiver from last year, but he did make an NFL roster. I'm gonna go back and look it up. But a Willie, 8-2, top 25 team in the country. They move on next week to face Kansas, which I think is going to be a good challenge for them. These last two games are going to be some good challenges, but definitely in position to make the Big 12 championship game. Your thoughts on our beloved Buffaloes, man?
Man, the CFP wants Colorado to make it through because the CFP ratings are going to be crazy anyway with this new expanded because we're watching more games that matter even down the stretch now because again they're all playoff. A lot of them are playoff eliminators. But okay, we got Alabama, of course, their fan base is established. We got Texas, their fan base is established. Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, people are going to watch. But they're being honest in terms of eyes on TV sets. Because whether you're in the camp of like you and I are, we ride with Coach Prime, or the people that are in the camp that they loathe Coach Prime, be on TV sets, the CFP and the committee. It sounds like the commission, right? But the committee wants Colorado in because of the eyes and the interest that they will bring, man. But looking at them as a team, we talked about how they needed to cut down on those penalties. They cut down on them. They were only penalized 5 times for 49 yards in this game. But then it's almost like levers. Down on the penalties, the turnovers go up. Against a really, really good team, they can't have 3 turnovers. They cannot. So I still want to see them, as you said, clean up some things, not continue to get off to these slow starts. I'm nitpicking because they're winning, but I'm also looking at things that could be problematic as they go forward. So, like you said, running the ball more. I like the fact that they're attempting it and they're a threat to run it, however they have to run it, whether that's, Augusta should definitely get more touches. If you got to get him the ball out of the backfield with screens, and you're using the pass as a run with a little screen, those things they got to run the ball more to soften up that defense of the opposing defenses. But if we can get those penalties down and those turnovers down as well, I think that would alleviate some of those slow starts that we're seeing. But this Kansas game is going to be interesting because, their quarterback, who is another West Coast dude, is healthy. They're playing really, really well. Jalen Daniels is his name. And they're playing really, really well right now. Kansas is getting what they thought they were going to get. because they started the year as a ranked team, but their quarterback was getting healthy from last year. Man, it's going to be interesting, man. But I also like what's going on in that defense. 10 tackle for losses, 4 sacks. We're seeing, not only are we seeing the sacks, but we're seeing the sacks at critical junctures, man. Shout out to what's going on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive coordinator. Of course, Warren Sapp is a quality control coach. So I like the progression that we're seeing. Man, if we can get those turnovers and the penalties down, I think we're really cooking with gas in those last 2 games.
Yeah, and the receiver that I was talking about is Xavier Weaver.
Yeah.
Was a real dynamic receiver for the Colorado Buffaloes last season, and made the roster for the Cardinals. So I could see a lot of those receivers doing the same thing as he did. Moving on to the NFL, Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, it was a classic matchup as usual. There was Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. You had all the star power in this game. Pittsburgh came out on top, 18-16. They improved to 8-2. The Ravens fall to 7-4. I said as I was watching this game that the field goal kickers was gonna have their feet in ice after this was over. But of course, we was rooting for Lamar in Buffalo, but I mean, it was a gritty game, and Pittsburgh made more plays. You look at some of the advantages. I mean, this game was pretty close. If you don't look at the score and you just look at the stats, you don't know who won this game. I mean,
Right.
honestly speaking, I mean, Baltimore 329 yards total yards. Baltimore 303 total yards. Passing pretty the same now. Baltimore, of course, beat them out on total yards, but passing yards 205. Baltimore 181, which is we don't expect too much out of Russell. At least I don't. Because he just doesn't have a big strong arm. Like, I mean, he makes plays and get the ball where it needs to go sometimes, but he doesn't have that big strong arm to throw it down the field on a regular basis. But no, it was even the turnover battles, man, and it was a lot of it was just similar. Now Pittsburgh did dominate time of possession. 36 minutes, 22 seconds compared to Baltimore's 23 minutes and 38 seconds. That's the biggest probably disparity if you look at everything. But I'm going to give you a chance to chat this one on out. Hey, Willie, disappointing loss for our Ravens. The one thing I think they were saying is that you don't officially become a Raven until you beat Pittsburgh, and unfortunately that didn't happen.
Yeah, man. It was watching this game. It's funny. One of the things that's going on, and you never necessarily wanted to come down to this, but Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals, and that's just not like him. That is just uncharacteristic of one of the greatest kickers in NFL history. And we've seen games where the Ravens couldn't quite finish off a drive, and Justin Tucker almost wins the game for them almost single-handedly by kicking field goals and being so reliable. So he's made deposits in that Ravens bank, and he's a big boy. He can take when coaches get down on him, and Harbaugh said in the media, Justin's got to make kicks, but the Ravens had to cash in as well, especially when you averaging 6.5 yards a carry. You can continue to run the ball when you have that opportunity to do so. But to your point, the biggest thing is part of the way that the Steelers were able to slow down the Ravens' offense, number 1 in the league in total offense, averaging well over 400 yards a game in total offense, was by keeping them off the field. So winning that time of possession battle, that's a big, big thing. So, of course you want to see Derrick Henry get the ball a little bit more. But yeah, it's the Ravens it's just one of those deals where sometimes you got to cash in when you have that opportunity and not necessarily have to always come down to a field goal. But I think, to your point, this is one of those matchups that can go either way. Russell Wilson didn't set the world on fire, like you said, which I didn't expect, which is an encouraging sign for the Ravens because their Achilles heel was playing defense. And because that's one of the things that they've been lacking. The thing has been if Lamar doesn't have one of those typical Lamar type days, the Ravens can't win. He didn't have one of those typical days. They didn't win, but they didn't necessarily lose because the defense got, I love using this term. The defense didn't get buffaloed by Pittsburgh in terms of we just running up and down the field like, where Lamar has to come out and be Superman. So that's one of the encouraging signs, man, if you are a Ravens fan, that the defense is starting to come along. But I think maybe running the ball a little bit more, especially given the fact that you're averaging 6.5 yards a carry. Pittsburgh didn't prove that they can stop the run. As good as their defense is, they didn't prove in this game that they could stop the run against Baltimore, at least. And so everybody's been calling for, you would like to see Derek get the ball a little bit more. Maybe you would have given it to him during that 2-point conversion. But I don't think that you can just not have him on the field when you're going for two because it makes it so predictable what you're going to do when you score that touchdown down the stretch and you're going for two and you only got Lamar out there. That's why you got Derrick Henry. He has to be on the field in that situation where even if he doesn't get the rock, the opposing defense has to honor the fact that he's on the field. And the fact that he wasn't is something that's a bone of contention for me. So I would still like to see, I know we're 11 games in. Sometimes the Ravens have to be a little more creative on offense, using all the weapons and probably the best back in the league, right? Him and Saquon are always in that conversation. But Derrick Henry's definitely the best back in the last half a decade for sure. And you got him on your roster and he's rolling, man. You got to give him the ball a little bit more.
No doubt. I look at offensive coordinators a lot of the times when they go from having a few players to a lot of players. It's like a kid on Christmas that has a bunch of toys in front of them. They don't know which toy to play with. When they only have a few, it's right there in front of them. They good money. But after that, you'll see toys in the room. You see toys everywhere because they don't know which one. And that's how I look at offensive coordinators, man. Just to bring you the stats, as A. Willie was mentioning, Derrick Henry, 13 carries. That is unsatisfactory. Like 13 carries, 65 yards. Just think about if he had 20 carries, 20 plus carries. I mean, especially in a game like that, you kind of would expect that.
No question.
13 carries, 65 yards, 1 touchdown, 75 yards receiving from Isaiah Likely. Zay Flowers, 2 catches, 39 yards, 1 touchdown. Flip it on over to Pittsburgh. Russell, 225 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception. Najee Harris, 18 carries, 63 yards. I mean, this was, like I say, it's a crazy game because Pittsburgh, I mean, field goals, man. Like when you think about it, man, like
not even score a touchdown.
Yeah, not even score a touchdown, man. That is tough, man. But of course we're gonna keep our eyes on the Ravens, man. Moving along, the other big game on Sunday, Kansas City suffered their first loss, 30-21 to Buffalo. It's crazy because watching the game, I believe they were up 14. They were up 14-6. And then, no. It was somewhere where, they were up like 14-6 or something like that. And where they were up, and then Josh Howard threw a pick. And I had posted, I said, Josh Howard don't want to he don't want to beat Kansas City, man.
Josh Allen?
Josh Allen, yeah. I said he don't want to beat Kansas City. And then later on down the line, I had to go back and repost it and set up. He changed his mind. He Josh Allen, like threw the ball 40 times, 262 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Also carried the ball 12 times for 55 yards and 1 touchdown. That's one of the things that he can do for a man his size that play the quarterback position. They did have some players out, but Curtis Samuel found his way in the end zone, 5 catches, 58 yards, 1 touchdown. They pretty much got it done all over the place. James Cook, 9 carries, just 20 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, this was another gritty matchup. I mean, we always expected to be close when these two teams play. I know I was, hearing little rumblings. Kansas City, of course, their offense hasn't been clicking. As usual, they just been squeaking, and eventually it catches up with you when you play in certain games. You can't keep relying on the defense to bail you out or game changing plays. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes definitely not his typical game that you think about when you think about Patrick Mahomes. 23 for 33, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That'll tell the story right there from the offensive end.
No question.
Your thoughts, Willie, on the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs handing Kansas City their first loss on the season?
What's interesting about this game for me, man, is that the Chiefs are talks. It really is a testament to how difficult it is to win 3 in a row. How difficult it is just to win 1, but they went back to back. And they've been in 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls. It is difficult to do that, and then especially in the salary cap league, in a hard salary cap league at that, where you can't circumvent the salary cap to go first, second apron, the first apron, second apron, like you can do in the NBA, where if you're winning, maybe you don't mind paying that, or you can say, you know what, we can do this right now and pay this first apron, and then in 2 years we'll have to make a decision and get to the second one, like the Celtics will have to do up here pretty soon. I think the Celtics have maybe two more years at max of what the team looks like now before those extensions kick in and they're going to have to make decisions. Well, in the NFL, this is a hard cap league, so you got to make those decisions a whole lot quicker, and it makes it very, very difficult to do that. The biggest thing, and we've all been talking about this, we saw this in a quarterback that you put up, and it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If you can pressure them, if there are issues on the offensive line, ask Patrick Mahomes when he played the Super Bowl against Tom Brady against the Bucs. When he scrambled, I think he ran, when you include the scrambles, I think Patrick Mahomes ran for something like 400 yards. He was running east, west, back, all these. And, obviously it wasn't 400 yards rushing in the game, but when you accumulated how much he was running around, it was like 400 yards worth of running, because he was under duress the entire game. And that's something that's going on right now. Most important position besides the quarterback position is who protects him and his blind side. The Chiefs have had issues at left tackle all year long. And so those issues are now manifesting themselves, and we're seeing Patrick Mahomes throwing more picks now. I think he has 12 TDs, 9 picks. That is so atypical of Patrick Mahomes. So they have to really start thinking about, and I don't know if that's an issue that you can remedy right now when you fix the offensive line. That's an issue that a bunch of teams have. We're past the trade deadline, so the players that they have now have to be the ones that fix the issue. And that's a hard, hard thing to do, man. And so they continue to make their way through the playoffs. If they continue to make a run, they're going to play teams that will have the ability to put pressure on Mahomes. So everybody talks about the weapons. Yeah, that's a great point. No Tyreek Hill, can't do this, can't do that. Well, if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have time, it actually makes you feel like you have to play hero ball and you press more because you feel like you can't trust your offensive line. And that's a major, major issue in Kansas City right now. So I would be looking to see what Andy Reid does from a schematic standpoint. Do they get some of the guys back that have been hurt at that left tackle position? And do they really shore up that offensive line to go on the run? Because if they don't, the Chiefs could be going home early, man.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, it's only so many miracle plays that keep bailing you out over a season. Now they do. With their first loss, they're now 9-1, and the Buffalo Bills improved to 9-2. Last night, just real quick, I don't even have too many words for this game, but hats off to the Chargers. They moved to 7-3 after a 34-27 win over the Cincinnati Bengals, who are definitely struggling this year. I'm not surprised when teams start to begin before the season even start. When you have contract issues, training camp issues, often this is the product that you get. I mean, at some point in time, they definitely had a talent, especially on offense. I will say this: I've watched a few Bengal games, and the play calling is so iffy, man. Like it is very iffy at times. They have two dynamic receivers. Of course, Jamar Chase. He wants the ball. I mean, he did have 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns last night. But he did have some comments and some after the game. Referring that he doesn't call plays. That's above his pay grade, so to speak, which is, I mean, so it seems like a lot of frustrations going on in Cincinnati. But like I said, hats off to the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 297 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. J.K. Dobbins, man, former Buckeye, 11 carries, 11 carries, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's Chargers 7-3, man. Hats off to them. Before we got out of here, I did want to recall a few college games that took place over the weekend. You had Kentucky and Louisville women's basketball. Man, hats off to Kenny Brooks, man. Went from Virginia Tech over to Kentucky, who are they're ranked number 20 right now. May have changed since then, but they knocked off Louisville, man. Louisville's 18th, 71-61. Took Georgia Amore over right along with him. She hasn't missed a beat. He got Kentucky rolling, man. This is his first signature win in his first year at Kentucky, man. 4-0. I see him doing some good things. He definitely probably won't have a problem recruiting going forward, being in Kentucky. But quick thoughts on what Kenny Brooks is doing over at Kentucky.
Doing a great job, man. And anytime you have coach that's it's an interesting game because you got Kenny Brooks, and then you also have Jeff Waltz as well. And Jeff Welch will allow I said this before, when you are a guard and you can go, he's going to allow you to go. Same with Kenny Brooks, man. He allows Georgia Amore to play with the amount of freedom that you need when you are a gifted guard. You don't want to be. It's not in the best interest of the team if you're overcoached. So shout out to what he's doing at Kentucky. Took over a tough situation and is doing an amazing job. Another SEC team on the women's side that is going to make the conference even more interesting as we watch what's going on. So, yeah, if he can get players at Virginia Tech, and it is hard as hell to get to Blacksburg. Take it from me, I've been on many scouting excursions to Blacksburg. It's hard as hell to get to Blacksburg. If he can get them there, he can get them in Lexington, man, where you can get a lot of direct flights into Lexington. And you got that NIL collective that's down there making sure that you get some of those players and you're taking care of them. So shout out to Kenny, what he's doing. I can't wait to see what he continues to build as a coach from this year and beyond.
TCU knocked off North Carolina State. They're now undefeated at 5-0. Sedona Prince, man, was unstoppable in this game. 31 points, 16 rebounds. Hailey Van Lith, which is as crazy as it is. I mean, this was their first game having a double-double with scoring and assists with 18 points, 10 assists. Madison Connor, 11.6 rebounds. And Taylor Bigby, 10.6 rebounds. NC State is now 2-3, which is probably a surprise the most. I mean, with them returning last year from their Final Four run, but uh, I'm a, when I watch Hailey play with TCU, she actually has a flow, man. She actually is looking like a point guard. Like it's not. I think through everything that she went through at LSU, it wasn't. It wasn't for nothing. I think this team fits her play style more. They do get the three. They do get shots up, but they also have a big, of course, that they can go to, especially her in the pick and roll or when she's just penetrating and dumping or penetrating and kicking. I think it's a great thing to see her in action right now. And I do believe that her playing over the summer in the Olympics and playing with, pros and veterans, I think is a good thing. You know, I like to see players flourish, man. I'm not a big fan of dumping on players. I may like lighter situations or joke or whatever, but I definitely don't want to see the downfalls. I don't get excited over the downfalls of people. But your quick thoughts, hey Willie, on Hailey Lith and TCU 5-0.
So first I'll say about NC State, like, when you see that record, you also got to look at who they play. Those two of those losses are TCU and then South Carolina. So they it's not like they're playing a bunch of cupcakes and then we're gonna get in the conference, then we're gonna start hooping. They came out the gates playing some teams. And I like when teams do that because it gives you a roadmap to, okay, you guys think that this is what you are. Let's put you out here against some great teams and let's see what you are. Let's see what we need to improve on. And let's be ready for when we get down the stretch and we play those tough teams and those tough games and we hit that adversity that we've already seen early in the season, get the answers to the test. It's interesting, man, watching TCU, to your point, some players, and you see players that there are players that Khalid Alameen comes to mind like this. There are players that are skilled enough to play in the NBA, but they are best suited to play a main cog type of role. So they will elect to have amazing careers in Europe instead of coming to the NBA and being more of a bit player because they are wired to be the show. They are wired to be in situations that are more heliocentric. That's where they're at their best. And I feel like Hailey Lith is like that as a point guard. And she's evolved as a point guard because she's getting more reps. And it's like, okay, this team does need me to score if we're going to be successful. So to your point, also playing with a skilled big is Sedona Prince that is just, man, looks like she's in better shape, is a crazy offensive threat, but also too with Hailey Lith and the way that she's used, I think she flourishes in that role where she's able to, okay, you know what? I can facilitate, but let me get a few of these things off the clip too. Let me empty the clip. And that's what's going on right now at TCU. I feel like there's less pressure. There are less quote unquote mouths to feed. And I think that helps her. And some people, as the way that they're played and the way that they're wired, they flourish and they operate best when they're in that situation, man. This point guard stuff is not for the weak. Hashtag point guard life. You got to be born into this. So, man, I'm down here when I'm in Dallas. I'm going to go and watch TCU play, of course. They got a game coming up that I want to try and make. And I really want to see. And so I think I am going to go see it. But, yeah, man, shout out to them. Obviously Sedona Prince and the coach at TCU to have that Oregon connection. So they're playing that Oregon style of play, where it's really free flowing. So man, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do in the Big 12 and watching them play some of those better teams in the Big 12 as we move forward.
Yeah, just announced a little bit a minute ago. Ray Burrell is now playing in Unrivaled. So good for her. Like I said, these young players, man, they need to get in there and get to hooping and networking and extend your careers and roles on your team. So
Hey,
Shout out to her. Before we get out of here, hey Willie, as I always do, ask you, do you got anything you want to get off your chest?
SEC fans, y'all over there crying about teams not being ranked in the top 12, and this team has that, and Indiana's here, and how are they there? And our schedule says this. What did Aaron Rodgers say when he was in Green Bay when they got off to a slow start one year? RELAX. Relax. Take care of what you're supposed to take care of on the field. Don't cry. Your team will be there in the end, man. So I want to hear all this stuff when we got 3 or 4 games. And as I said, all of these games are playoff eliminators. And people are already talking about, well, this is a tiebreak and this, and this. And man, let these games play out. Let's see what's going to happen. Then at the end of the season, if you've taken care of business, then let's talk. But right now, man, relax, watch the games, let your team play in these playoff eliminators. So y'all just got Tennessee. Watch it all play out instead of talking about when we got a good month left in the season and you still talking about we ain't this and that, man. Go sit down somewhere.
And for me, my last words is I don't have too much to say. The only thing I was thinking about is I watched the Tyson and Jake Paul fight over the weekend is that, sports is for entertainment at times. We get caught up in fanfare, and a lot of us, spectators and fans get out of pocket and, take it far left. And at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. Most of us are sitting and bickering and arguing for free. Our favorite players and favorite teams are getting paid to lose.
Right. Facts.
Now, of
Facts.
course, essentially, they don't get brought in to lose, but they are getting paid, nevertheless. Even when a coach gets fired, everybody's in an uproar, and sometimes things are just, and sometimes they're not. But that's why it's this thing called a contract, and most of these contracts are guaranteed as long as they don't break any clause that's in the contract. I always like to say when a coach get fired and the team still owes them $50 million, he's just on he or she is on a paid vacation.
Amen. Amen.
Let's relax a little bit sometimes at how far we go when we talking about people, making all kind of gestures over the sake and love for sports. At the end of the day, but remember, if you don't know or remember anything about me, I'm here to laugh, show love, promote, talk sports, movies, joke, and troll. Catch us on the next episode.
I got one thing to say before we get out of here. I was in my feelings about that fight, OG. Netflix, get your shit together. We got the WWE coming there. If you think it was crazy for the Tyson and Jake Paul fight, man, when those Raw and all those different things, and y'all want some pay-per-views too, you think it was bad then, man, y'all better get it together, man, or give me my money back. I was in my feelings about that.
And we are out.